So I had prayed to God and I told God that if you get me through this disorder, I was going to testify on NSPPD. Nobody has ever talked about this because it affects 1 in 1 million people. Uh, so October 9th, after the first NSPPD convention, I woke up that morning, huge spasms, lost bowel control, lost bladder control, could not move. My body was just stiff. My voice had changed. I still forced myself out of bed because I had just gotten a new job and I was still on orientation. I don't know how I drove myself to the clinic. And when I got to the clinic, I had this massive spasms. And one of the PCPs in the clinic was like, no, go to Memorial Hermann in Scottsdale. That was the closest location to the clinic. I got to Memorial Hermann in Scottsdale. They were like, oh, they did CT scan. It's like, we can't find anything. We think it's a kidney stone. They gave me medication. I still insisted, my strong self. I got back in the car, wanted to go back to the clinic so I wouldn't lose my job. They were like, no, you need to go home. By the time I got home, I could not even move anymore. My body was just stiff. So I called my niece, took me to Methodist downtown. The doctors could not figure out what was going. They had IV fentanyl. They called the neurospine surgeons, MRI of the brain, everything. It's like, okay, white matter changes. They're like thinking MS, they're like thinking stroke, but they said, oh, it doesn't correlate with MS. It doesn't correlate with cardiac equina. What is actually going on? So they kept treating the symptoms. Discharged me home after like a week. Went back to the hospital 4 days later again. Now, Methodist in Sugarland. My heart rate was like 180. Spasms was through the roof. The only thing that could stop the spasm was IV Valium. So they gave me IV Valium. They did the EEG. EEG was not showing anything. And so they kept me on admission. Now, my CK panel was through the roof, rhabdo. They started IV fluid, steroids. And one of the doctors came in. Now, I had like 6 different doctors, hematologists, immunologists, cardiologists, gastroenterologists, name all the ologists you can name. They were on this case. Then the pain doctor came in. He heard me praying in SPPD. He said, we can't find anything wrong with you. Your blabs are okay apart from the rhabdo we see. I see you have faith. Keep praying because we don't know what's wrong with you. So they discharged me. I went back home. December, I went back to work. Now they had me working remotely because my body was still stiff. And now they got me a table where I could stand and see my patients. I didn't need to sit down. So I finished work that evening, went on the couch and laid. I was gone. My 8-year-old daughter came. Thank God. I had a niece that was living with me that was a nurse. The next thing I see, they were, auntie. When they woke me up, I'd already had a seizure. I bit my tongue and everything. Back to the hospital again. Now the doctors in Methodist, after 5 admissions, could not still figure out what was going. They sent me home on all this medication and I was swollen. I couldn't move. And I was like, no, why are you taking all this? You know what it is. So I weaned myself off all this medication. I said, I have to figure out what exactly is going on with me. So I started researching doctors. I came up with a neurologist at UT Health. I said, I need to see a doctor that teaches med students. They think outside the box. So I go to this neurologist. She looks at she's like, no, this is abnormal. The LP, they said it's normal with a band. One band is not normal. She said, I think you have stiff person syndrome. Same thing that Celine Dion has. But I'm not sure because the only people that can diagnose you is Mayo Clinic. So she sends my blood work to Mayo. And in February, he comes out with an elevated GAT65 number through the roof. And she says, well, there's no cure. I said, well, I'm still going to go to Mayo. So I go to Mayo to see the #1 specialist, stiff person. And she says, put your husband on the phone. And she's telling my husband, she's going to lose her memory. She's going to be on the wheelchair. She's not going to be able to be mobile. I just want you to prepare your mind because she is not accepting it. At some point, she might have to have a baclofen pump to prevent the spasms. And she might need to go to the hospital to be administered Valium so her body can relax. And I was alone in Rochester and I just cried. And my husband was like, no, he changed the flight. He's like, just come back home. So I came back home. We started the immunotherapy. Then on NSPPD, then I was still praying. And the insurance company in America, they kept fighting. My treatment was $100,000 a month. And then they came and said, no, you have to pay 50% of the money. Where do I get $50,000 every month? So this particular job that I'm still talking about that I was brand new, the CEO was like, no, we're not going to leave one of us behind. We're going to pick up the bill. So it's been a year and a half, and the doctors have all said, wheelchair. Then on July 27th, we were going to Europe on holiday, and Sister Isioma sent me a text message on WhatsApp. She said, oh, Pastor Jerry just mentioned your kids, stiff person syndrome. Stiff person syndrome. I didn't see it. When I got to the UK, I turned off my phone, I saw that text, and I played up. And he kept saying, stiff person syndrome.
I just saw this right now. Stiff person syndrome. Stiff person syndrome. If you are the one, put it on the live stream. The devil is a liar. I announce, let it be reversed.
I said, where did this man get stiff person syndrome from? This is the lady the doctor says, wheelchair, you will not be able to function, your memory will go on disability. I used to be the person that had 20 jobs at a time. But this illness reinvented me. I wanted to have my own practice. And I kept saying, what is the essence to have a practice if I'm not going to be there? And Brother Lozier, he was like, no, Sister Esther, open that practice. If you don't have faith, we're going to stand in gap for you. And I'm at home working for this clinic, and the rest of the time it's my practice growing it. I don't have to go out and look for that extra income. God made a way. I was at the doctor on Friday, and he said, you have an uncommon diagnosis with an uncommon symptom. It's atypical because people with this disorder do not look like the way you look. We're going to take it back, and we're going to study why you look this way. Your vision, you don't have nystagmus. Your vision is 99% on the right. Your vision on the left is 100%. This is a neuro-ophthalmologist. I am not on benzodiazepine. I'm not on the wheelchair. I actually wear my high heel shoes to work. What can you not do?